Live from Lone Depot Park, Fish Unfiltered. My name is Azout. As always, I'm joined by the great Kevin Barral, and we have a very special guest this evening, the radio play-by-play man of the Marlins, and the man behind some of the most electric calls in all of Major League Baseball, Kyle Sielaff. Kyle, thanks for taking the time.
Well, thank you. You're buttering me up, but thank you. I like that. I like the way this is going so far.
Let's get started. The last 24 hours, Kyle, before yesterday's game, Sandy Alcantara, Jorge, arguably your best pitcher and your best hitter, go on the shelf. 24 games left. How about yesterday's ball game?
Well, I mean, I think it's great to see the way that they were able to bounce back. I mean, look, I said this pregame yesterday. They're not in a position where, and by the way, I mean, like, all of us in the media find out at a certain time. They probably knew a little bit beforehand, right, that something was going on. Nelly and I were talking about this last night. They cannot feel sorry for themselves. This team has played really good baseball all season long. You can't let that, no matter what it ends up being for the both of them, derail what's been a great season. It puts you in a pinch. You're losing a starting pitcher. You're losing a guy that was the Cy Young last season. But it's a terrible day. But, I think, personally, the Marlins within reason have not suffered to date like a catastrophic injury this season, right? Like you've kind of forgot about Trevor Rogers because he just hasn't been around. Johnny Cueto obviously didn't pitch, but other than that, they've stayed really healthy. Luis Arraez has not missed time. Some of these other guys have not missed time, and in large part, they stayed really healthy this season. And injuries are going to happen. The Marlins, the front office, and the players in that clubhouse have got to find a way to respond. And I thought they did a great job responding last night. I really did.
Obviously, we look at this series thus far. They've taken two, going for the sweep tonight as we're recording. Just what have been your thoughts overall?
Well, I said this last night too. Like I think sometimes people get sick of that stupid cliche, like go 1-0 today. But it's true. If you look at this stretch where it's the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Brewers, and the Braves. Again, those guys are wired a lot differently than us, but that would seem daunting, right? Like, oh my goodness, how do we get through a 14-game stretch? Well, played 9 really good innings tonight, and if you start stacking up wins, look, for what it's worth, this 14-game stretch for me, if they go 7-7, they're going to have a great opportunity down the stretch playing a Mets team that doesn't have a whole lot of pitching. They can still hit the ball. Playing the Pirates, they're going to have a really good opportunity to get their way into the postseason. And it's funny, we've talked about this for a month now on the air. Some point every single season, somebody gets hot. And we talk about, is it going to be the Reds that get hot or the Giants? Well, it's the Marlins that are getting hot right now. They have an opportunity tonight to do something they haven't done all season long. It's win 7 games in a row, right? So, they're getting hot at the right time. And you hope they can stay hot. I really do think if they can go 500 or maybe a touch better over this stretch, they're going to be in a great position to have an opportunity to make the postseason, regardless of whether or not they have 3 starting pitchers and they're going to utilize 2 bullpen guys or utilize the opener 2 out of every 5 days, and you kind of use Edward Cabrera in that mix as like that hybrid swing guy. I don't know. Like, I'm enjoying the hell out of watching these guys, man. Like, they're fun to watch. They're winning games. They're 5 over again when they were just a game under last week. Like, keep on playing. Roll the dice every night. Try to put 9 good innings together, and you just don't know what's going to happen.
You mentioned last week, on August 30th, Miami just finished getting swept by the Rays in 2 games. Yeah. At that point, their playoff percentage, according to Fangraphs, went down to 11%. It's currently at 34%. At 11% down there, did you maybe lose a little bit of hope that this could get done?
I don't know if you lose hope, but like it wasn't going well. Like, they weren't pitching well enough. They weren't getting big hits. They could not hit with runners in scoring position. So, I mean, does that constitute as losing hope? I guess at some point you're like, if they don't do that, they're not going to get where they want to go. Now, all of a sudden, I wish I had my notebook, but I wrote this down earlier. Since August 18th, I think they've hit 27 homers and plated 74 runs. I should go calculate how many of the runs have been scored via the homer. But, like, all of a sudden, a team that we did not really see to start the season outside of Jorge Soler, they're winning via homers. And whether it's Sanchez or De La Cruz or Chisholm or Arraez has gotten into the mix a little bit. And the moves that Kim made for me at the deadline, it's put them in a position where they can weather some of this storm without Soler, because you add Berger, who I think is going to display more power in September. And even if he doesn't, he's been really good. He might not have to hit the ball out of the yard to be productive. I think that's proven that's true. But then Josh Bell kind of slides in there as the guy that can kind of carry some of the load. And you know what? To me, the biggest X factor, and we say this a lot, is Jazz. He got spoken to in Washington, D.C. because he wasn't hustling. Okay? Like, it is what it is, and you got to call it how you see it. He got spoken to. That kid has been electric the last couple of days. Whether it's hitting the ball out of the yard or dropping down a bunt and gliding to first because nobody's going to get him, stealing bases, playing terrific defense, he could do something really special in September. He's not going to do it all by himself, but he has a chance to really carry this team.
Do you think what they're doing is sustainable? I mean, the way they're scoring runs right now, obviously just via the homer mainly.
I do, because I think that's a product of good at bats. Like, a home run is not lucky, right? Like, there's a plan. There's an approach that leads to that. Now, is it always going to be a homer? Sometimes it's going to be a double. You know, you get on top of one a little bit, it's a single into center field. I don't know if they're going to hit 30 home runs this month, but to me, homers are a product of good at bats. And that is a product of Brant Brown and John Mabry and Jason Hart and their team down there, and something that they've preached all season long about putting a plan together. Remember when we were in San Diego a couple of weeks back, Skip had mentioned something like they're not following the game plan. Well, there's no BS. I'm not saying there ever was before. But with this staff in particular, we're going to call you out. If you're not doing something right, if we're not doing the little things right, we're going to talk about it. We're going to get it out front. We're going to have a conversation, and we're going to fix it. Because if you don't, you're going to start losing, and guys don't want to have hard conversations or whatever you want to see. But it's really no nonsense. And it's funny to me. It's like they took an approach back in spring training. Like, if people are going to pay money to watch you, put your best foot forward and try to win for this fan base. And like in a roundabout way, that means coming to the ballpark, showing up on time, going to every single meeting, game planning, taking care of your body, putting yourself in a position to win, which ultimately makes the fan base happy. But like, I love this staff. I love what they're doing. And I do, to your question, think what they're doing within reason is sustainable.
Big part of yesterday's comeback win, obviously, the 2-run home run by Joey Wendell. This man, a bona fide professional, has really struggled this year on the offensive side of the ball. He's displayed great defense at short. How big is it for this team if he can get going a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think he helps. It's been an awful year. There was like the 6-week stretch where he was hitting over 300, and he just fell back into the funk until what felt like last night. The one thing about Joey Wendell is he is a consummate pro. It does not matter if he's 0 for 40 or 30 for 40. He's going to show up to the ballpark and prepare the same way every single night, and he leads by example. And to me, ultimately, that filters down to his teammates when you learn to conduct yourself like a professional.
I guess looking forward, obviously, you mentioned Philly, Milwaukee. These are teams that are very close in that playoff contention. They're in the race as well. Just what do you think is the key to take those teams? Obviously, with Milwaukee, Philly's the team coming up. You have Nola, you have Wheeler. That's a team that's kind of gotten hot in that second half of the year. Want
me to hold this thing down?
Yeah, sure.
To me, the biggest key is don't worry about other teams, worry about yourself. Like you do. They had the Marlins were really bad coming out of the gates in the second half, which, in hindsight, it's fun to scoreboard watch. It's like everybody else around them was losing. There was a point just recently when they were one game under that they were 15 games under 500 in the second half. Obviously, that's turned a little bit now, right? And now they're 5 over, so they're 9 under in the second half. If you handle your business, you don't have to worry about other teams losing around you. I mean, in theory, the Marlins currently, as we're doing this, hold the third and final wild card spot in the National League. If they handle their business, and they have, 72 wins?
Yes. 72 wins.
Okay, so we have 23 games left to play, or 22?
Games left.
To me, if they go 23 games left, so if they go 12-11, no, we're screwing something up. If they they have 72 wins. If they get to 80, if they go 13-10 the rest of the way, I think they're in at 85.
Yeah.
Don't worry within reason about the other teams. I think they're in with 85. I think if they go 13-10, to me, after you start against the Dodgers 2-0, and I think if you go 7-7 over the stretch, that leaves you having to win 6 games in the final 2 weeks. I think this team gets in with 85 wins, and I don't think that's false hope. I don't think that's selling a bill of goods. Those other teams now below the Marlins are going to beat up on each other. I think 85 wins gets them in. I really do.
Well, you know what? When going into this Dodgers series, there's 25 games left, and I said that they need to go at least 13-12 to get to above 500 to finish the year, and maybe sneak in. Of the 3 teams that the Marlins are competing with for that final wildcard spot, Cincinnati, Arizona, and I believe Chicago, which one do you think is the biggest threat to Miami?
Cincinnati, Arizona, or Chicago.
San Francisco, I'm sorry.
San Francisco. Cincinnati, Arizona, or San Francisco. I don't think San Francisco hits enough.
Me neither.
Cincinnati, I don't think they pitch well enough. And Arizona, I don't know. I just don't know if they have enough yet to get to the postseason. I don't know how to answer that because I think the Marlins are the best team of those four.
I agree.
Yeah.
I really do. Like, I know you guys are covering the team, but if you stack up those teams, can San Francisco pitch a little better because they're more healthy? Maybe. I don't think they can hold a candle to the Marlins offense if they're going to keep doing this.
No.
And by doing this, if they score 5 or 6 runs a night, the Marlins are going to win a lot of games. You don't have to score 10 or 11 every night. Arizona, I just don't think they have enough. Like, I think they're a piece or two away from, like, actually threatening the Dodgers in coming years. And Cincinnati, they don't. I don't know. I don't think they pitch enough. I really don't.
But Gallen's struggling too.
Yeah, in Arizona.
That's a really only real good pitcher there. Well, you have Kelly, but he's a little.
Yeah, but I don't know.
shaky.
I don't know. I think that team is a piece or two. I saw they brought up Jordan Lawler or whatever. Yeah. To me, in the coming years, that team is going to be a wagon in the National League. They're going to be great. But as it currently stands, those 4 teams, I think the Marlins are the best of those 4 teams. I think they're more well-rounded and set up for success.
And we go back to this team in particular. Jorge Soler, obviously, they're going to be without him for a little bit. Such an interesting stat. I don't know if it's just a statistical anomaly.
15-1.
15-1.
Now
What?
16-1.
Now 16-1. How do you explain that?
I don't know.
Because it's not like the team is better off without him in the lineup. The team is better.
So you're saying they're 16-1 when he's not in the
When he's
lineup?
not in the starting
I
lineup.
don't know. I mean, he makes the team better. I don't know. I'd have to go look at every single one of the games
Right.
and who they're playing. I don't know. I'm not sure though. I'm really not sure.
Fair enough. And I guess we can go sort of into you a little bit because, this is your first season doing full-time play-by-play. I've been listening to you since you're doing spring training with both Dave and Glenn doing the regular season. Great times. What do you think you still have to improve on the most as a play-by-play announcer?
That's a good question. The hardest thing for a broadcaster, and I was always told this growing up, and I still find it to be true, is I go back and listen to myself, and I'm so critical. I always tell myself, if I'm listening, do people know what the inning is, what the score is, who's on base, how many outs are? Because, it is radio, right? You need to let people know more often than not that, we're in the bottom of the 5th and it's 1-0 and there's 2 on and there's 1 out. And I think there's probably a million things I can improve on. And I tell people this all the time. Like, I told myself when I did this, I'm going to be me. I'm not going to try to be anybody else. I grew up in New York, and I absolutely loved Howie Rose and Gary Cohen and Ron Darley and Keith Hernandez growing up in New York, right? I was watching New York sports television. Like, to me, those people are my idols. And to me, like, their ability to broadcast for me is unattainable, and I'm going to work my butt off to get there. And I hope that one day, 50 years down the road, if I'm so fortunate enough to do this, that somebody's going to say the same thing about me. But, like, there's so much I can work on. Like, I pick out little things every morning. I'll go back and listen to an inning or two of the broadcast the night before, whether it's, hey, shut up for a second. Nelly was saying something. You don't have to step on his toes there. It was a foul ball. Like, you can get to it in a second. I don't know. I'm really hard on myself. There's a million things I could probably work on. I am totally open to constructive criticism all the time, whether it's on Twitter or from another professional in the business. I will listen to anybody. I am so fortunate that I've been given this opportunity, and I do not think I know it all. I just know that I'm a fan like everybody else. I love the Marlins. I think it probably shows. I get excited when something good happens. Like, it's not fake. It's genuine. I love rooting for the team. They're paying me, dude. Like, I'm excited. Like, and the other thing that I think about this often, and I think subconsciously, those guys in that clubhouse are the easiest group of guys to work for. To root for. They are so nice. They're so nice. Like, I root so hard for them. And yeah, I know I'm a professional broadcaster, but I'm a fan. Like, I feel like I want to be the voice of the fans of this community and the people that root for this team, and not like somebody that sees himself as better than everybody else, because I don't. Like, I love broadcasting. I love the Marlins. I love those guys in the clubhouse. They're so easy and fun to root for, and I genuinely just want to see them have success and, like, play past October 1st. I really do.
Okay, he's good. That was a great answer. And I guess the last thing we spoke about it a little bit before we turned on the mic, just the data you get from, whether people are listening to MLB.com, whether people are listening to Game Day, iHeartRadio, or AM radio. What are the sort of the statistics that you get from those.
Yeah, we average 1.2 million listeners a night. No, I'm just kidding.
I was about to say.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We don't see a ton of data. What MLB can provide us is like average listenership on the app. But what we do know is that a majority of our listenership comes from the MLB app, MLB.tv. And a lot of times what people can do is if they're watching Paul and whoever he's working with and vice versa, you can actually do the audio radio overlay feature. Oh, yeah. And we listen to a lot of people that tell us that they love switching back between the TV broadcast and radio, and I guess getting different insights and opinions, although I probably not a whole lot different than what they're saying on TV. But I think that's the trend in the industry, though. A majority of people, I think there's a good chunk of people in their vehicles that have access to Sirius XM. There must be like a premium subscription to get the home and road. Mm-hmm. It's not that terrestrial radio necessarily is dying, but like there's just other platforms and means to disseminate it. So truly the listenership comes off MLB.tv, whether it's audio only, the radio only feature, or radio overlay. We get some folks in their car listening on 940. If you crank the dial, there's not many. You remember a dial? You have no idea what a dial. This guy, he has no idea what a dial. But right, I mean, like that was just you used to just put on 940. You would turn the dial. I'm not a fossil, but like there's just other easy ways to do that, right? You get in your car, you're doing what? You're getting your phone. Okay, you're putting on your phone. So there's only so much we can see, but we do know the majority of our listenership is on the app. There's some on Sirius XM. The really cool thing, if you live in Miami or Broward, Miami-Dade or Broward County, you can listen on the iHeartRadio app because it's geo-fenced. So as soon as you go out into Orlando, you're not going to be able to get it. But if you're listening locally on your phone, you can go to iHeartRadio.com and get the broadcast. So yeah, does that answer?
Yeah, no, that's interesting because every time I listen to the radio, it's definitely in the car or with a handheld.
How often do you put on 940 in the car? Do you use
940? No, I don't use MLB. 940? Yeah, you go. Yeah, okay. I am because it's so delayed if you use the app, so that makes it a bit of a pain in the butt.
I've asked them about that too. We hear that a lot. It's interesting if you watch the game on MLB.tv and you do the radio overlay, it's synced up perfectly. Right. But for some reason, the radio only portion of the app is 45 seconds delayed. And that's probably within reason because it has to go from here to the station to MLB, and then it gets disseminated, so I can understand. But yeah, it is a little bit delayed.
Steven, who now took over your former role there, just what have you seen from him? Obviously, he's been doing a great job with the YouTube.
He puts you up to this, didn't he?
No.
He puts you up to this, didn't he, Kevin? Your check's in the mail, isn't he?
No.
Show me your Venmo. He Venmo'd you, Kevin.
They spoke in the elevator.
Steven's been great. He really has. He has a passion for it. He loves. Similarly, he grew up in New Jersey, but listened to like Mike and the Mad Dog growing. You guys should have him on. I'm sure he used to be a caller on Mike Francesa's show, so he could probably show you the clips. He's been great though. He really has. He's done a great job. There's a lot that he could still learn, and he will. But he really has done a great job, and it'll be really nice too. I tell people this all the time. There's a really big leap, and I'm sure I'll feel this too in the booth from your first to second year, right? So like now, Steven and I can sit down in the off season. We can go over things we need to take care of internally. We can map things out better because he was hired on opening day. Yeah, he was here on opening day. It's the first time I had met him. So like we can chat in the off season. We can plan for what we want to do down the road, and just inherently as you get a little bit older and you do it a little bit longer, you just get a little bit more comfortable. Like the off season, you can just take a deep breath and you can look at how the season went, and what an unbelievable year to start. Team's 5 over. I started in 13. There was 62 and 100.
62 and 100, exactly.
Right, in 13 with Placido, Polanco, and Juan Pierre stole his 600th base in Philadelphia. Was it 500? He stole 600 at third. He stole third. It's funny though. I look back on that all the time. I was like, what a cool group of guys though. Yeah. They were not good, but they were older guys that found a way to come back and make it like a 1-run game in the 8th inning every night. But anyway, I tell Steven, I'm like, you're so lucky, dude. Yeah. They're 5 over and a legitimate chance to go to the postseason in your first year as a full-time employee of the broadcast. So he really has. He's done a great job, and it'll be fun to work with him.
And you saw Yelich come up that year. You saw Jake Marisnick come up that year.
Ozuna come up.
Real Muto debuted in Tampa the next year. Yeah. Yelich came up in Colorado.
3 for 4. Well, I think they changed one of those hits actually. Now 2.
Yeah, they did. Was it him and Ozuna that came up in Colorado?
No, him and Marisnick. Ozuna came up a little bit before, and and then Yelich and
Ozuna, was he Tampa as well?
Ozuna was against the Mets at home.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll never forget that throw he made late in the game in New York.
To get
Like the 16th inning.
To get Neuenhuis.
Oh, that one was here.
That was here.
But you remember the great play he made at City Field. But yeah, I remember that one. He threw out Kirk Neuenhuis at the plate.
Yeah.
We could do this all day, but yeah.
Anyway, last thing for me. Last time we spoke, Kyle, I believe it was end of April, and Luis Ariz was just snubbed, I guess, for the American National League Player of the Month to Ronald Acuña. And now Ronald Acuña and the guy who's playing right field tonight, Mookie Betts, are fighting for that National League MVP award. Who is your NL MVP?
Acuña.
Really? Yeah.
Dude, he's a monster. How many stolen bases does he have now? 62.
If he's going to finish 40 and 70, which is ridiculous. But Mookie Betts is still more valuable.
Ronald Acuña Jr. is more valuable this season. You can show me whatever statistic you want. If I put a blind resume out for those two guys, I promise that both of you would pick Acuña 100 times out of 100. If I gave you a guy in right field that's going to play that defense, hit 40 bombs and swipe 70 bags, you would be prosecuted if you did not take that.
Okay, defense and right. Mookie gives you phenomenal defense and right, second and short.
Okay, but the game is predicated on offense. 40 homers and 70 stolen bags. How many does Mookie have? Mookie is an unbelievable player. The guy's worth $500 million.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just saying, if I put those two guys on paper and you turn away a guy with 40 homers and 70 stolen bases, you should be put in prison.
And a bazooka in right field. Fair enough.
Cannon. Yeah. Unbelievable. And he's a spark plug. That's a guy that's matured in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He was a little immature a couple of years ago. He's really matured. Yeah, that's a great player. I enjoy watching him.
And we'll get to see him pretty soon when they come to Miami. Yeah, it's going to be tough. But anyway, that'll be it for Kyle, for Kevin. Thank you so much again, man, and good luck tonight in the booth.
All right, guys. See you later.